Well, ACT are very concerned that the advice that teachers give when they're supporting children, young people, and even parents, that could be caught in the proposed legislation. And indeed, the first edition of the Easy Read document that was produced did include teachers explicitly, as well as obviously church ministers and youth leaders. And this really, it worries us that this could be something that would then criminalise teachers for sharing the Bible's teaching on sexual ethics, because it's not really clear what precisely constitutes conversion therapy. And any conversation with a pupil that could gently challenge particular perspectives could potentially risk criminal sanctions. And ACT is very concerned about this, and we want to protect and ameliorate this potential situation for our members. Yeah, I mean, teachers regularly engage in pastoral conversations. It's part of the job, and often, particularly in secondary school, children will approach teachers with, issues with things that come up in their lives, and we'll talk openly sometimes about sexuality, about personal problems, about gender and romantic relationships, and it's not always easy to engage with that in an appropriate way, but to actually criminalize some of these potential conversations, I think, would be incredibly damaging. We feel that banning this broadly defined conversion therapy could particularly impact autistic children and children who have special educational needs. We know that they're much more likely to experience gender dysphoria, where they feel that they are not existing in the correct body with the correct gender. We know that a lot of them will struggle with other traits, atypical neurological traits, and they're already aware that they have differences from their peers. And there's such a kind of positive culture surrounding gender identity, whereby the affirmative stances are so highly thought of and being viewed as potentially the only stance, the only approach that will protect children, that sometimes this can be quite manipulative and can influence already vulnerable children into making decisions without proper informed consent. Yes, absolutely. And I think, we often live in a kind of in a society that views this issue through black and white lenses. Nuanced discussions with children to help them think about issues of gender and sexuality shouldn't be considered to be conversion therapy. We feel that this could be overly simplistic, and that conversations, if they're not affirmative, to view them as converting children to the opposite gender or the same gender, could be deeply damaging. And actually, professionals should be free to explore these issues with grace and with gentleness, but without fear of acting illegally. So we do worry that this proposed ban would have the effect of undermining the Christian ethos of many of our schools. So many schools, particularly schools that our members will work in, will adopt a Christian ethos and a conservative biblical interpretation and understanding of teaching on identity, gender identity, sex and sexuality. Now, the Department for Education is clear. It doesn't wish that equality obligations undermine the ethos of these faith-based education providers, but it's very unclear at the moment how these faith perspectives are going to be protected when it's unclear what sort of conversations would constitute conversion therapy, particularly when it comes to teaching explicitly biblically held views. I think, as the letter states, our members, they really do have no desire to become criminals, and we want to uphold the law. We want to place a high value on submitting to authority, and we also want to support students, children, in gracious, empathic ways. We don't have a desire to coerce children, but at the same time, we do want the freedom to be able to express biblical views when a child would seek that. And at the moment, the bill would not deem the child to be able to give consent to that. And that's where we really fear for our members and for other teachers or professionals, that they will become wary of criminal prosecution and then unable to engage in some of these really crucial pastoral, nuanced conversations.